Welcome back to Fade the Mahoney. 3 years in the making. We couldn't get Jack, so instead of that, we've got Kyle Schultz on the show finally. Kyle, thanks for joining us, buddy.
Thanks for having me. It's definitely been a busy year. I know you guys have asked me to be on the show multiple times the past couple of years, but I'm always pretty busy doing stuff. But with the season now behind us, happy to be on, talk some wiffle ball.
All right, great. I'm Mike. This is Trevor next to me. Trevor is the resident expert when it comes to setting the odds on the series that we always bet on. Any first-time viewers, we are consistently in the top 10 shows every week when it comes to betting on Major League Wiffle Ball. So welcome, first time around. First off, congrats on the World Series. It was, I assume, a lot of work, but it was great to watch. Why don't you share with us any thoughts you had about the experience, anything we didn't know behind the scenes stuff that caused you extra problems or extra excitement?
Yeah, no, thank you. It was definitely a lot of work, but I do think it was really rewarding. Just a plus two that it went 5 games. I'm super happy that, all the work that we put in could allow us to have the 5 games to show all the stuff that we did in Atlanta. But really going into it, we were just trying to improve upon last year's World Series in SoFi Stadium. And obviously the biggest thing is having fans in attendance. So that was number one. But then when you have fans in attendance for a 5-game series, you got to keep them entertained, and you got to have merch going and concessions and bathrooms open. And when you have all that stuff being involved, then you got to be really working hand in hand with the team you're working with, their stadium, the Atlanta Falcons and Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So a lot of first-time stuff with me and Tommy, just in terms of the administrative stuff. But I've been receiving, really good feedback from not only kids but parents that were in attendance, saying that we kept them involved, and it was very engaging, and they were impressed by the quality of play too. And a lot of times too, when people, I know Trevor went to our Philly series, in the videos they only see the last pitch. So when you go to these actual in-person live events, you get to see every single pitch. It's a little bit slowed down, and you get to see the guys play wiffle ball in its entirety. There's a lot more strategy than you might think that's involved. You don't just see the strikeout pitches, you see what they set them up with and that kind of thing. So a lot of things went into the Atlanta series, like I said, though. Just getting the scoreboard on and all this stuff to keep the crowd involved is a great success in my mind.
Plan on doing fans again in the future?
I think so. I think our fans really, we talked to them before the series, saying that we put a lot of trust in them to not spoil results, and they came through like we knew they would. And I think that was the one, I guess, hesitant aspect I had coming into the World Series. Is just we've never done a World Series in front of a crowd before, mainly because we don't want spoilers to go out there and ruin it for everybody on social media. But they were super understanding. They understand that it's no fun for anybody when you go out there and spoil results and that kind of thing. So they held the power of that responsibility of knowing, and they held true to keeping their word. And I'm super grateful for that.
That was the next question I had. Was it basically just you asking nicely?
Pretty much. I mean, yeah, I love the MLW community. Like, we're all going for the same thing here. We want to put great content out there and make it a fun thing for everybody involved. So I kind of just got on the mic before the World Series started for like 5 minutes and was just kind of saying, well, pretty much going through the rundown of the day and how it's going to go. And then we also get handed out flyers as everybody walked in. And also on those flyers, it kind of had like a no spoilers section, which I just kind of went over again with everybody. And they were all very understanding of it, of course.
As far as I could tell, it worked great. I didn't see or hear anything. So
Cool.
as someone who just enjoys the product, I was worried about it, but it worked out great.
I'm glad.
We have an awards preview show coming up soon with a couple of guys from the Magic.
Cool.
Can I just get you to comment on rumors are that you guys are going to rename the Manager of the Year award after Jack?
Why? Because he's won it back to back, or was he won it twice?
Well, I don't know. He's about to win it, so I just assume he's such a dominant manager that it might be named after him. True or false?
I have no comment other than that we are not renaming awards. I guess that's my comment.
Okay. All right. I've got reached out to lots of friends of the show. We've got lots of questions we'd like to ask you, but we're going to let Trevor lead it off. Trevor, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I had a question about the live product that we were just talking about with the World Series and everything. And obviously, you mentioned that I was at the Philly series,
Yep.
and it actually just made me think about I come from a poker background. I play poker for a living,
Mhm.
and I just thought about the comparisons between the poker product and the MLW product. So in poker, it's a good TV product because they show all the all-ins, the exciting moments, and everything else that's kind of a little more mundane and watered down is cut out. And MLW, I think, is a great product because of that. It's high action. You're watching the YouTube video, you're seeing the last pitch of every at bat.
Yep.
And when you go to the series, obviously it's a little more. There's a little more nuance to it. There's a little bit more going on. So, do you have any plans for those live events to do other interactive things? I know you mentioned at the World Series, but anything else that you have in mind, like to kind of keep everybody engaged in the product in a live setting?
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of it depends on the venue and setting that we're particularly on. So, being in Atlanta with Mercedes-Benz Stadium, we have the video board to work with, and we have the entire stands right there in front of us to work with. Philly was tough because there's no real stands and there's no scoreboard. Well, there was a scoreboard. It wasn't really functioning, besides just like a motion graphic that we had on there. So I would say first it's dependent on the venue that we're at. But outside of that, I just want to continue handing out, free merch, incorporating fans into videos with segments that appear in the intermissions between games 1 and 2 and 2 and 3. Those are for sure staples that I want in every single out-of-state special summer of stadium series. But I'm still learning. I go to Tigers baseball games or Michigan football games, and I'm seeing what the crowd is doing. In commercial breaks to keep the crowd involved. So I mean, it was almost like a part of the bloopers of what I think the game 4 video, but we did like a 120-yard dash with 2 of the fans from Atlanta, and they had the chance to win merch, t-shirt tosses, sock tosses, all those kind of things. That's kind of the space we're entering is the live event space. And, we're not just going to jump in there and be a master at our crafts in the first year of doing it, second year of doing it. So I like what we've done to this point, but I'm just going to continue to keep learning and be innovative and figure out ways that not only play in person, but also in the videos too, I think is the best possible scenario.
I think the best thing that you can do is probably once Drew Davis officially retires from the league, he can be the MC of the events. The in-crowd entertainment, the host of the event. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, he would do a good job of that. I could see that.
Next question I had was, okay, so the product obviously has started when you guys were very young, and it's very much catered and to a kid audience. Like a lot of kids are into it. Obviously, we are adults who are also into it, but you have a big audience of kids. So how do you plan to kind of bridge the gap and kind of grow the product to a wider audience that maybe includes more adults while also not trying to like lose the roots of the kids game that it is?
Yes, great question. So I think naturally wiffle ball is a youthful sport. Just that's what you grew up playing before baseball, and it's something to play with your family in the backyard, and there's just youthful nature about it. And so I think our brand reflects that and notices that and wants to stay true to that. And families love it, parents love it, kids love it. We hear this feedback all the time at our tournaments and special series. So with that being said, our audience is always getting older with us, which is cool to see. But that's not to say we still want to stem away from the roots of it and start taking on alcoholic sponsors and gambling sponsors. And that's kind of been the hesitancy of why I've maybe turned down some other. We took like one DraftKings ad last year in 2022, and we received some pushback from it, just from parents saying like, "Why are you guys promoting this to kids or whatever?" So outside, like since then, we've really stayed away from that because we really care about brand image and that sort of thing. And that's not to say. For now, we're staying away from more of the that kind of vice and everything, but I think there are other ways to grow, the markets, and that's I think in part due to traveling, go to different regions and that kind of thing. But I think MLW is a brand. I just want it to be very positive, healthy, and family friendly above all. So I think that's kind of been the main overarching themes of our company.
All right.
Makes sense.
One of the friends of the show, big fan of yours, Exports. Sorry, I forgot his first name. It just goes by Exports. He sent me this big long paragraph. It's really, really smart with lots of words I don't understand. Expansion and opt-out rule. I don't know what or the 4-man lineup opt-out rule, but his main question was expansion. With how deep the talent pool is and adding at least 8 players every year. Do we have immediate plans for expansion? Is it on the horizon?
I get this question also a lot. But I will say right now, I really love where we're at, where 8 teams are all really good and saturated with talent. I think if you expand to 10, the immediate thoughts I have are the gap between the best teams and the worst teams is going to get even wider. And you potentially have even more Fridays where it's 2 teams that are not good, or it's going to be blowouts, which I don't like. I really like right now where every single series, apart for, I mean, you look at the teams that missed the playoffs last year, the Cobras and Gators, still very talented. Cobras won the World Series last year. The Gators won it in 2020. So moving forward, if every 8 team is good, then every single video is going to be good. If you have expansion teams where you're picking, not to be offensive, but bottom feeders of each roster, and you kind of pull one away from each team and then have a draft pick, those teams aren't necessarily going to be as talented as you might want in a year 1, 2 expansion teams. And I think their standings would reflect that, and they would kind of struggle, and the videos reflect that, and views would be down. And I think it'd be very tough with the infrastructure we have now on our video upload schedule, because also when you're adding 2 new teams, that's 5 more weeks of uploads, and now you're looking at our videos are going to go into January of 2024 if we're taking this year's example. And I think that's just far too long. So when an expansion comes, it'd have to be because we have more money to hire more editors, to have more videos be produced weekly. That's really the root of it. I see the feedback in that they want more teams, but logistically, it's just not in our best interest right now. I do agree that that there's a lot of talent coming into our league right now, and with the draft happening every year, there's going to be a point where there are going to be some good players, maybe not being able to crack the top 5 or 6 of each rosters, but I also think there's some good in that too, and that for sure that all 8 teams are going to have very star-studded rosters, and that's going to make every single video really good to watch as well.
That's a fantastic answer. I think an expansion draft where like you can only protect your first 2 players, that would be great TV.
It would be great TV, but also pretty sad if you had some guys that grew up playing and grinding and trying to win the World Series with their team they came up with and just got poached by another team. It'd be tough to see. I think that happened with the Pistons in like 1990 with Rick Mahorn. You guys can correct me if that's wrong, but I believe that happened, and that kind of tore away and broke apart the Bad Boys, and that was the first stepping stone. So I don't know if that's in my Detroit roots, but I think that's true.
All right.
Mike probably knows. He was like 35 then, right?
I remember Rick Mahorn and the Bad Boys. I've got a question here from Grant M in Michigan. He wants to know if you had to choose between only playing or only editing, which would you choose?
Was this by Grant Miller? When you say Grant M?
Can't get anything.
No comment. What do you say? Only playing or only editing?
Yep.
Dang, that's tough because I love them both. I'm pleading the fifth on this one. I'm not saying either.
All right. Trevor, you're up.
Do you imagine, you mentioned, creating a bigger budget to hire more editors? Is that something you imagine doing in the future? Like, as a content creator, the editing process, I know it's arduous. I made poker vlogs and stuff back in the day, a couple of years ago, but it's an arduous process. But when you're a creator like that, and you're very particular about how you do things, it's very hard to give up creative control of that. And so is that something you feel like you could eventually do?
Yeah, I've done a lot of research on this topic, and I've listened to interviews from creators like Mr. Beast and Cody Ko and other people that have really been stingy and that their way is the only way. But eventually they gave way to editors that learned and perfected, the original creators' style of editing. So I definitely think it's possible and inevitable in the future. It's just a matter of when. But I think that would be, a multi-week process to teach them the ins and outs of everything I see in editing. And I know if I give up some control, and it's, in my mind, it loses some authenticity, but at the same time, you're getting perks elsewhere, and that you can have more of an output and become more efficient as a company in the video upload schedule. So I know there's pros and cons to it. But I feel like in the future, it'd have to be a perfect person. They'd have to, relocate, first of all, to Michigan, where we're at, just to be as efficient as possible. No immediate plans right now for that, but that's not to say that, within the future, as the company continues to grow, that will happen.
Cool.
All right.
Speaking of the company continuing to grow, will the public ever be able to purchase and run a team, specifically, content creators who might be interviewing you right now, who might be interested in purchasing a team? Would that ever be something that you imagine happening, purchase and running a team?
I don't see that happening right now. What team do you want to buy right now?
Gators. We're going to buy the Gators.
You're gonna buy the Gators.
Yeah.
Last year
How much would you pay to buy the Great Lakes Gators?
It depends. I mean, obviously, it depends on what the terms of the agreement were. Like, what do we get? Like, do we get a percentage of the revenue from the views of their videos, like a percentage of revenue of the sales of their products, stuff like that? That type of thing. Or are we just running them?
We just
What are
want
you shaking your head at, Mike?
we want carte blanche to make moves. Who cares about the revenue? Carte blanche.
I would pay like $50,000 probably.
As of now, I think this is off the table. It's a very interesting exercise to go through, but it's kind of so if you were the owners, would you be in charge of drafting and that sort of thing? Is that kind of what you're looking at? Transactional?
Yeah, absolutely.
Gotcha.
Chadwick would be on the bench somewhere. Cheatham gone. They're all gone.
See you guys.
Wow, cleaning house, huh?
Those are our boys, so we could say that they're our boys.
Last year, we went into quite a bit of detail about how our goal was you take the team at the bottom, they're the least desirable, show our skills. So we wanted to get the magic, and our first goal there was to we were going to put Jack in charge of landscaping, I think, is what we were doing with him. But now, I mean, what are we going to do? The guy's manager of the year, hitting home runs in the World Series. So we've moved on to the Gators. They're the worst team in the league.
Nice. No, it's always weird for me to hear Gators being the worst team in the league, because when I still think of that core in that group, I think of when I played them in the 2020 World Series when they were just so hard to get through, especially Cheatham. Like, I don't know, like Cheatham had if you look at his stats from that postseason, it's insane. He had like 6 homers and was almost batting like 400. So I know that's still in him. It's just a matter of when he pulls that back out. But I feel like it could be this year if he just keeps practicing and that kind of thing.
It's kind of hard when you get old and get a real job to
I know I think that's a real thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, we love Jason Chadwick and Cheatham. They've both been on the show a lot of times, but they'd have some ceremonial role with the team if we got our hands on it.
We keep Jorgy though. He's a boss.
Oh, yeah. Or Jorgy.
Nice.
Jorgy's a pretty strong trade chip. We could probably turn him into some stuff.
Well, speaking of which, Mike.
Yeah. I
had a few questions about the Wildcats and potential trade ideas for if we were to trade Nick Saylor. So I wanted to throw some of those by you, Kyle, and see what you thought. Maybe like a Nick Saylor and a pick for Jorgy. Is that something you'd entertain?
See, I love my boy Nick Saylor. I've been seeing all the comments saying that we need to trade him, but he's my guy. I think he just had a down year for whatever reason. I think he just needs some, I don't know, maybe some work in his mechanics or that kind of thing to be more shorter to the ball and that kind of thing. But I'm still rocking with my guy, Nick Saylor. But I will hear out any of your prospective trade offers.
Yeah, I mean, I think something with either Saylor or Sawyer Bean. I think those would be the two biggest candidates to acquire. I feel like, yeah, something like that. Those are the two guys I think the most. Maybe a three-way trade, three-team trade.
Yeah, no, I will say, a lot of teams have been talking already, even though the offseason just kind of started, and just saying who's on the block and who they're open to potentially trading with and that kind of thing. So it's always been pretty interesting to hear, but nothing has been, officially done yet, obviously.
I'm sure it's really easy to negotiate and deal with Drew. I'm sure that's probably not a big deal when trying to make a trade.
Oh, it's not easy. I sense some sarcasm there. I will say he's always looking to make some moves, which I love as a commissioner. I love when teams aren't just sitting in the back seat when they want to be up front and making moves and being aggressive with it. I think that's really cool to see as the commissioner.
Drew likes to mix it up, stir the pot.
He does. Yep.
I've got a question here from a Cobras fan from the UP. For you
nice.
non-Midwesterners, UP is Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Who's the most influential player in the league in terms of growing the game / bringing eyeballs to particular videos?
I'd probably say Jimmy. I think Jimmy just does a really good job being personable in the videos, and he also takes his personal profiles seriously on TikTok and Instagram, and he's been able to grow a little bit of a following there. But I think just the way he plays the game, I think they just love the fire he has and the natural talent he has. So, and that's reflective in jersey sales too. He's always, if not the top two, he's the top at the past like 3 years of jersey sales. So people love seeing him at tournaments, and they love to watch him play. So I'll have to say Jimmy on that one.
Okay.
I got a question I just thought of.
Go for it.
Yeah.
If you had a choice, if a new player was coming to the league and you had to choose between someone who is really, really good at wiffle ball with zero personality, or someone who is towards the bottom end of wiffle ball skill with all the personality, which would you rather have in the league?
I would say not bottom level talent, but like mid-level talent with a great personality. That's what I think would be awesome. I think that's a lot of where our guys stand. A lot of times we'll go to these national tournaments, and obviously we're not the most talented bunch, and a lot of these guys are in their upper 20s and lower 30s, and they're just chucking the ball like almost 100 miles an hour, and they're the teams that win out. But I would definitely take, at the end of the day, we are an entertainment company in my eyes, and nobody's going to want to watch a bunch of jerks on camera that are no fun and don't show any personality, and are just kind of they turn their heads away from maybe acknowledging kids at tournaments or special series, and they don't want to sign autographs or take pictures or meet and talk to the families. Like, that's the type of guy we don't want in the league. So I for sure would take maybe the person that's less talented but more fun.
That makes sense. As I'm sure you have some very, very passionate fans out there. And
yes, I'm aware.
I'm gonna clean this one up. This question that came off was a little on the blue end, so I'll clean it up. It's from a angry West Coast Mallards fan, and again, I'm gonna clean this up. Why the blank did we have to trade Miller for nothing?
Why the blank did we have to trade Miller for nothing? So here's what I'll say on that. So Preston Colm, there hasn't been a lot of video about him in the past 3 tournaments, but he was the best hitter on that Bay City Bone Crackers wiffle ball team. And since I want to say 2020 or 2021, Tommy has had his eyes on him and instantly knew he was the future of that team and its young core. Obviously they have Robles, who's a beast, but he thought Preston would be, regardless of where they drafted, he thought he would be a great piece to add to that roster. So with that being the case, Tommy knew that he wasn't going to need that number 1 pick because he didn't think the Magic were going to take Preston. So they traded that, and then I think Tommy got the best pick in the 2024 draft, which it worked out. It's going to be the Mallards anyways to have the higher pick. But with that being said, also in that draft, I loved Liam Jackson. He's a guy that had a great season in 2020. He won the Wiffle and the Mitten in 2020, which is a very hard tournament to win. He's the best hitter on that team. Has homered off the Wildcats multiple times, I believe once in the postseason. So that's why we wanted Liam to be our 4 hitter in a changing league where now you have 4 guys in the roster as opposed to 3. Before this year we had a core 3, and we needed that 4th core member that we knew was going to show up every single time, or at least most of the time. Obviously it didn't happen this year. Liam had some stuff come up, but he's a guy that we always loved. So we didn't need that pick. We traded it to the Magic, and they went out and got RJ Walgate, a kid that defied all expectations, a kid that just started playing wiffle ball not even like a calendar year before the draft. So that was the hesitancy with me. I'm looking at a kid that I didn't know if he was just going to be blinded by the big lights of the channel and that kind of thing. I knew he was a great kid, but I think just talent-wise and the way we wanted to win now, I wanted somebody that I knew what to get out of them. So that's why we got Liam and traded them for that pick, in which they got RJ Walgate. But going back to the Grant and Preston trade, that was just a matter of Tommy having his guy picked out, and the Magic kind of capitalizing because of that.
God, you're going to make a great politician someday. You have the next question on the list. Mike from Chicago wanted to know if manager Kyle wished that Commissioner Kyle would have overruled the Liam Jackson for RJ Walgate trade.
Like I said, I like Liam. Yeah, I like it as a commissioner. I like it because it really, whenever that draft was in mid-April, I liked the Magic, how they got 3 new guys in the building. I like how the Wildcats got their 4th member to be in that lineup, that mainstay, who eventually went in to hit a walk-off home run off Ryan Crash in the playoffs, that a lot of people are looking past. And then Mallards have a young guy that they can move forward with. And I honestly, if you look back, I forget who Preston pitched against, but he's got some pitching talent too that I really think Tommy is going to look more into in the next year. Obviously Caden pitches a lot and Robles, they take most of the innings, but I think Preston has a big future, not only hitting wise, but pitching as well. But in terms of my squad, I like what we have right now. And also we have the #1 pick this year, as well as the #3. So that trade also set us up for a great 2024 season in which we are already looking at 2 new guys to join the squad.
All I hear there, Trevor, is Sailor can definitely be shipped.
That's great.
All right, Trevor, you're up. What do you got?
Last question I have, and this is a little bit of a hard-hitting question, I think. As a business owner here, do you ever foresee a situation where the players decide to form some sort of union to protect kind of their kind of role in the product?
Yeah, so we've been more on the offense side of it to make sure that it doesn't reach that sort of point. So we have a players fund that we reward people for their efforts and how much they give to the league in the calendar year. And that has so many different aspects built into it. But a lot of it is maybe how many times were they mic'd up? How many times did they ump at tournaments? How many times did they come to MLW series they weren't involved in to help with the video camera on that, like the iPhone angle on the first base side to help just with the video operation aspects of it. So we've been on more of the offensive end to make, we wanted to be ahead of, being in charge, I guess, of 50 people. We know there's obviously a potential of them gaining up and wanting more of what we have, I guess, that kind of thing. But we've been very transparent in saying that we're very thankful of the efforts they give, and they know how much work it takes for me and Tommy to put it on. So there's great respect for both sides of it, with in terms of the league and the players. And I think it's a very healthy partnership right now between those two groups.
That was remarkable.
Actually, I just thought of another question too, Mike.
All right, go ahead.
It's been a while since I've done this interview and thing, but I always come up with questions on the fly.
Yeah.
So when you meet somebody new for the first time, how do you explain to them what it is that you do for a living? Because playing poker for a living, I get this all the time. I've been playing poker for a living for 20 years.
I hate explaining what I do. You can't it's either one way or the other. Like, they think it's the coolest thing ever, or they think you're insane. And it depends on the type of person I meet too. Like, sometimes I'll come out and say I run a wiffle ball league. Sometimes if I know they're not into sports, I'll just be like, I run a small business, and then we'll see how far they want to take that. Like, sometimes I'll say I'm a YouTuber if I'm meeting like a little kid, because they understand what that means. But it's all over the place.
I'm so interested to see what it'd be like if you're out on a date with somebody, what their impression is. Because from a poker player standpoint, people tend to find it very interesting, and then they ask all the same questions. Like I've been doing it for 20 years, so I've been through the same line of questioning. And like when I'm out with my wife, she's like, "This is the worst because they're just talking to you for an hour straight," that type of thing. But yeah, I'm interested in what the success rate of like people that if you got a date, if they think it's a cool thing, if they're like, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, usually if they're confused, I'll kind of just show them the YouTube channel and what we do, and if you have a video at SoFi Stadium, then they'll instantly be like, "Whoa, what the heck is this?" They'll perk up a little bit. Sure. And that kind of thing. So stuff like that, stuff that maybe the TBS shoot that I've done in the past will kind of give more of a better understanding of what it is that we do, and it actually has some credibility out there. But I'm not gonna lie, there is definitely a lot of confusion with people that I meet and what we do.
It's fun though, it's different.
Yeah.
You had said you have the first and third picks in the draft. Is that what you said?
Yes, I believe so. So we traded with the Magic last year, which included that Gators pick that they had. So the Magic had the 2 picks, and we acquired the one that the Gators, I guess, had control of, or was based upon them. So as it stands right now, it's the first and third pick that we have, and the Cobras, I believe, have the second.
Okay, because I have a question here from a Gators fan from St. Louis. With the Magic success going from worst to first, they have high hopes. Does that mean the Gators don't have a pick?
I believe they don't right now.
We really need to have this organization underneath us.
That $50,000 amount that you just offered, Trevor, I can't believe he didn't snatch that up with what's that? Do you have a name or two prospects with the draft? I know we're a few months away. You got a couple of people that we should keep our eyes on. You think? Well,
Oh, for sure. I
you
mean,
got the first pick, so you could tell the whole world who the best player is because you know you got him. But what are you
yeah,
looking at?
I don't want to name drop right now, but a lot of the things honestly come down to if we know for sure that these players are going to be able to make it to the Meadows, and availability is the number one thing. Honestly, we don't want to just add somebody where the summer comes around and instantly they have a bunch of baseball tournaments and they can only show up to one or two series. There's a unfortunate situation last year with the Preds rookie Jake Longman, who up until that point was playing in multiple leagues, was one of the most dedicated wiffle players we knew. And then, life happened and football happened, and he wasn't able to make it out to a series. And that's just something we don't want to move forward with again. So we obviously do have a bunch of names identified from previous tournaments and just maybe online presence that we know of that we've seen at tournaments and series and that kind of thing. But we have to, go the extra lengths in making sure that they'd be available, making sure that they'd be great fits for the teams they're going to be on, and that they would blend well with those teams' cores. So that's kind of that's where we're at in the process right now, is just figuring out A, availability, and B, the right fits for squads.
You sort of cut off the question I had from Dr. Burbs, who's a big Predators fan. He's wondering if they ever get a draft pick again. But I guess it's been a while, right? They haven't had
Yeah.
anybody added to the team the last 2 years, right?
Yeah, they got a pick this year. Ryan's been very involved this entire year of going to tournaments and figuring out who could be effective in their roster. But yeah, I guess they've been one of the teams where their draft picks, I guess, have been least effective. Which I will say, Rudy actually has been performing. He had his best year by far this year, and he was a 2021 draft pick. But outside of that, they got Matt Cawley in 22. Unfortunately, didn't kind of pan out. And then Jake's past year.
Shout out Rudy. Rudy came on the show this year, one of the best guests we've ever had, and he was mashing the ball.
He is a character, man. Rudy Ramirez, he's the same that you see in the videos in person. He never turns that off. And he's a Brighton kid, so he grew up with us, and he's kind of been that way his whole life. Like, I've never seen Rudy in a mellow state. It's pretty wild to see.
He's the best. This is a serious question. We got to do something about the pitching rules in the playoffs. Can we convince you to do some restrictions?
I really love how it's the best versus the best. And that's what Tommy thinks. That's what I think. It's what most of the managers think too. I don't want there to be a scenario where, there's a game 5 this year and it's supposed to be the best game of the entire year, but you wouldn't see a Dallas versus RJ because they wasted all their innings of eligibility in games 1 through 4. And then you got number 2s, number 3s out there in what is supposed to be the biggest game. We want the best to be playing the best whenever possible in the playoffs. And I think there's a heroic aspect about that. I think there's a big game matchup aspect about that. And I think teams just want to see their best go at it. And a lot of times it doesn't work out. You look at a team like the Preds, crash bits every single inning of this postseason and last postseason. That could be a back-to-back MVP, and yet they didn't make it to the World Series either time. So I think that just speaks to the importance of backup pitching. You're obviously alluding to a scenario in a rule format where it would promote backup pitching, but I think already prevalent is a scenario, and it exists in the league where, a Blade Walker can be the reason the Eagles make it to the World Series. Or you look at the Magic, where Bonham and even Grant Miller are very necessary into preserving RJ's arm to where he propels them to win and not allow a run in games 4 and 5 to win the World Series. So I think me and your heads are at the same spot in that we want to make backup pitching a priority and important. And I think it already is. And I think it's actually bit teams in the butt where they want to go with their ace the entire time to a team like the Preds or maybe even the Mallards and not embrace backup pitching.
Yeah, my personal thought is it rewards the better managers for setting it up.
I see that.
The good managers, like soon-to-be manager of the year, Jack Agner, those type of managers. You got anything else on your checklist there, Trevor?
No, I think that covers everything I was thinking of. Oh, well, just one thing real quick. So my son Andrew's 9, huge fan, loves wiffle ball, lives for wiffle ball, wants to play in MLW. What do you think the age that, like, what's the youngest kid that you'd allow in the league? Obviously, we have RJ, who's, I guess he came in at 14 and is 15 now. Would you have a age limit on it? You wouldn't want a kid that's X years old.
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, you got to be mature enough to be able to take maybe the heat of an entire fan base coming your way and invading your social media profiles and that kind of thing. So, I mean, you look at a kid like RJ who came into that 14, he did not seem like he was 14. He was very wise beyond his years. And in my eyes, he's sort of an anomaly. We don't typically take a kid that young just because we don't know if they're ready for not only just the social media aspect of it, but being able to travel with a group and taking days off of your high school practices and that kind of thing, and traveling with us and being able to realistically perform in front of an audience in these big stadiums. Like, that's not easy for a kid to do. You need some life experience to be able to handle yourself in those situations and interact with fans and parents and different type of organizations that we bring you to. So I would say just as long as you're mature enough to be in the league and you got a good head on your shoulders and you have some wiffle ball talent. I think in the past we've seen like 15, 16, 17 is like the most common ages that enter the league, but that's not to say there could be a very mature 14-year-old like RJ that could also, make his way into the league and happen in the future again.
All right.
He throws 65 though, so he's 9, but there's 65. He's ready.
It's impressive.
One of the mainstays of this channel, especially during the NFL season, is we have Jorgy come on, who makes his NFL lock of the week. I assume it'll be tacked on in the end of this for week 14, I think, by the time this drops. I was going to ask you to make a pick, but making this content is more difficult than you people at home think, because by the time this comes out, the Big Ten championship game will have already been played. But I'm going to give you credit anyway. I need you to make a prediction.
Sure.
Wolverines, I think, are favored by 22.5.
Yep.
The lowly Iowa Hawkeyes. So what do you think final score is going to be? And more importantly, someone on this show has 4 figures wagered on the first half at 10.5. Give me your thoughts on that.
I think, first half, that'll for sure be over 10.5, but I'll say first and foremost, I'll be at the game. So I can't wait to watch this one in person. I was there last year when Michigan beat Purdue in the Big Ten championship. So I'll be back there in Indy this weekend. I think Iowa's going to cover this game. I think their defense is just they make football games so quick. Like, you watch an Iowa game and it seems like they wrap up within 2 hours, 45 minutes every single time. It's just crazy with how much, I think they like to stick to running the ball, and they just make teams punt, and the games go so quick, and it's just hard to score a ton of points. So I'll say final score, I think it's going to be something like 27-10 or something like that. I think it's going to be an ugly football game for the most part. I think we don't want to pull out all the tricks to save for the national semifinals if we were able to get past Iowa in national championship. So I think it'll be more of a less scoring game as opposed to the other 2 Big Ten championships we've been in the past 2 years.
That was a solid breakdown. All right. I don't have any more questions. I have one request. I was hoping the 3 of us could point to the corners like you guys do at the end of all of your videos.
Oh, sure.
All right.
Okay.
This way? Or
This way? That way? Okay.
Another thing. Yeah. And down below. This is my Jackson Pearson jersey.
There you go.
Love Jackson. So down below there will be links. Buy some jerseys. Buy a Kyle jersey. I stated 2.5 years ago, if you come on the show and you have a jersey on the store, I'll buy it. So now I will be ordering a Kyle jersey to add to the wall. And I think that's it. Kyle, you've been great. You've been super generous with your time. I couldn't have asked for more honesty than what you gave us. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Say goodbye, everybody, and good gambling.
All right, back with another week, up to 9-3. Got a real close one last week with the Colts. They won in overtime. Tennessee kicked a field goal. They came down, scored a touchdown, covered, won the game. Back on track here. This week, I'm going to the Sunday night game I this was my lock last time these two teams played, but I picked Philly. I think it was -3. So this week I'm going Dallas -3.5, switching it. Dallas is home now. They're on fire right now. Eagles have looked a little lately. What has really been working for the Cowboys is their passing attack. Dak Prescott has been unbelievable. I think it's like the third time I picked Dallas to cover. And the Eagles secondary is not great. They've been giving up points. They just gave up a crap ton to the Niners, and their secondary has been bleeding points. And that's what Dallas does. Tony Pollard hasn't been great this year. He's had games where they're up. He can kind of run the ball, but at this point, they don't want to run the ball. They want to give the ball to Dak, give the ball to CD, and I think they will this game at home. Dallas has also been fantastic at home. I wish the line was -3 because I'm scared that they might win by a field goal. But there was a lot of close ones this week. I wasn't too sure about the other games, so I think I'm going to stick with Dallas -3.5. Hopefully they can win 27, 23 games, something like that. I think we got to stick with the boys.